Hey everyone, and welcome to Sip Happens. Life's too short not to sip and tell, where love, travel, food, and a little bit of chaos all come together.
It's Ben and Dustin. We're partners in life, travel buddies, and occasional food critics.
And we're bringing you real stories from our 16 years together. The good, the messy, hilarious, and sometimes fucked up moments.
We'll be sharing everything from how we met to what it's like starting over in a new city, our throuple journey, our favorite eats, and the random adventures we somehow survive.
Plus, we'll be taking your story requests. So if you want the real behind the scenes scoops, you're in the right place.
We hope you've got a drink.
Because we've got one.
Sounds like it's time to get comfy. Now let's get into it.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to another new episode. So let's start off with getting into our popular segment of Not Today. I think for me, it would be the fact of the excessive filter usage these days. It's a lot. I mean, we've met a few people here in Atlanta who, their pictures just don't match. It's like we showed up and the filter fell off their face, and I have no idea who you are. And you're just doing yourself a big disservice. Like, I mean, I don't really use filters unless it's for like a cocktail to make it like really cute or whatever. Every now and then I'll use a filter like if the lighting wasn't great, but my filter usage is like old school Insta filters, like just make me a little tanner, make my eyes pop a little more. But also, I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of know the good lighting and things that I need, so they're not really needed. But it's the filter usage that like changes your face structure. That's a problem because
It's like they had plastic surgery.
right. And like if they were to go missing, don't put that on the milk carton because girl, ain't nobody gonna find you. Nobody
Nobody's
knows
gonna
what the
know.
fuck you look like. And you're setting yourself up for failure then when people are disappointed in you. Like if I'm talking to somebody online and we haven't met yet or whatever, like we're about to meet or I will usually send a selfie also that I know is not my best. Lighting's not on point. It's not the best angle just to be like, this is kind of me not looking so hot. So here it is. Just to kind of warn you. Like, you're welcome.
I don't know that it's a warning, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I just want to be honest, I guess.
Yeah, we don't need any false advertising. And it's like you said, like, don't put that picture on a milk carton because nobody's going to find you looking like that and what you actually look like. And not that looks
Right.
are the only thing, but it's
No, not at
I
all.
just need to recognize you when we're walking in somewhere.
Right. I mean, I just think it's really a disservice for yourself. Like if you like it's one thing if I feel like I should be a little tanner because you really can't ever be too tan or make your eyes pop. Like it's another thing when you really change your whole structure with an app of your face.
No, that's very true. I think mine would be honestly about myself for not today. I was on a call this week with my boss, and she was like, I feel like we had this meeting already. Have we? So I pulled up our action plan and timeline of everything that we keep track of this project that we were working on. And I was like, oh, yeah, it was, we did have this meeting on June the 11th. So I'm not sure why we're rehaving it and didn't think anything about it. So I moved on. And then, like, an hour and a half later, I was pulling up the same action plan and looking at dates and all of that, and realized that the day that this meeting happened was July the 11th, or excuse me, June the 11th, and I didn't realize that that was today. So my not today is don't be a dumb bitch, Dustin, because like pay attention, know what day it is. So I don't know. It was like an hour and a half later before I realized it, and I sent her a message. I was like, so I'm an idiot, and I just had it already marked on our action plan as being today and didn't realize that today was June 11th. So I'm just an idiot.
You dumb bitch.
It's a,
I feel like that could totally be a segment though, because we say that all the time about situations like
Yeah.
that. Like not in a derogatory way. It's just literally it's a moment where you're a dumb bitch.
right. And as you've heard on previous episodes, bitch is not a derogatory term most of the time. You dumb bitch probably has a little derogatory connotation to it,
maybe. But
and
we're saying it to ourselves. It's not like we're saying it to other people.
right. And it's just kind of a fun thing. Like, have to give a shout out to a friend of ours that we met right before we moved to Atlanta for introducing us to "ya dumb bitch," and now we use it more than we probably should. But
That part.
it is what it is. It's fine. You dumb bitch. So, what are we sipping on today?
Okay, so we already talked about the new trend of, we're all about a trendy TikTok moment. And we've seen this spicy Sauv Blanc situation that everybody's raving about. So they say that you freeze your jalapenos. So we froze sweet and hot jalapenos from Trader Joe's.
Because we love a Trader Joe's.
Not that part. And then we went to our favorite wine and tasting room, Chambly Deep Roots, to pick up. You all know that one of our favorite brands is Octopato. So we got the Octopato Sauvignon Blanc. And I have to say, I'm a pretty big fan of it. I mean, I think that it definitely gets spicier the longer that it sits, maybe the more they thaw out in it. But I'm kind of digging it. If you like a spicy marg, I think this is just another kind of version of that.
Yeah, I agree. When I first started drinking it, I didn't really taste much of the jalapeno. But as the jalapenos thaw out, it definitely gave a little bit of the spiciness and the flavors of the jalapenos. So if we were to do it again, I don't know that I would freeze the jalapenos. I think I would just drop them in and let them sit for a second. And because I think the freezing of them, I know it's supposed to help keep the wine cold and all that, but let's be honest, our wine doesn't stay in our glass all that long to get super warm. So
There's that.
there's that. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I also think that the Sauv Blanc helps because I don't normally love a Sauv Blanc because it has some grassy notes, if you will, to it. But the Octopoda Sauv Blanc it's actually pretty good. I enjoy it. I don't mind drinking it, and the jalapenos do give it that little, not really spicy because we didn't use the super spicy jalapenos. They're the sweet heat, so it just gives it that little taste of jalapeno, and we like a jalapeno.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be good if there was a way to like smoke the jalapenos too.
Oh, that would be
I know
good.
like you have your smoking gun for old fashioned, so I don't know if there's a way that we could smoke them. I think that might would add a little twist to it.
Our sommelier friends are like
They're
flipping us off and
mortified.
cussing, and they
Right.
were already a little perturbed that we were going to put jalapenos in a Sauv Blanc.
Right.
But,
Everybody's doing it, and we
why
have to
not?
try it out. And we have to try it so y'all know to try it or not.
So
You're welcome.
I think it's worth a shot. Just be careful of your Sauv Blancs unless you love a Sauv Blanc and you love being a cow and chewing on grass.
Then add some jalapeno to your fresh cut grass and you'll be happy.
Right. But I think overall it's pretty tasty. I would do it again. I wouldn't
Yeah.
crave it necessarily.
No, I think it's just kind of light and refreshing. The smelling notes of it, though, is a little weird when I smell the jalapeno. I guess that just will take some adjusting.
Yeah. Well, just don't sniff your wine like we normally do.
Yeah.
But unless you want that hint of jalapeno mixed with your
Right.
aroma and nose notes of your wine.
It's not in the glass all that long anyways. So.
True.
All right. So to start this off, let's chat about a little story that we mentioned last week, but then we kind of forgot about. And it's just a little
I'm so annoyed.
little queer story that Dustin will tell you. I mean, it's Pride Month, so let's chat about a little candy swap.
So I thought he would forget about this, and in all transparency, we're re-recording this episode, and I thought that maybe he would forget about it for the third time
I forget nothing.
because he's a fucking plunger. He pulls shit up all the way from the depths of the earth
You're welcome.
all the time. So, anyways, when we mentioned this a little bit on our last podcast, and Ben thought I was going a different direction about the story I'm about to tell you. And then my sister is listening to the podcast, and she texted as she was listening and was like, I know where the story is going. And I'm like, no, you don't, because we're not talking about it. And again, I thought Ben would forget. And again, he doesn't forget anything.
You're welcome, Brandy.
So anyways, when I was in after school care, one of our counselors or teachers or whatever you want to call them was part of now a popular was a popular pop band. I don't know that they really do much anything anymore other than just hang out, if there's even that. Anyways, so he left for several weeks, and in the mail to the after school care, we got a cassette tape. Yes, because I'm that old. Of their concert that they were touring in Europe. And it was a band that you all probably know of, NSYNC. And Lance Bass was one of the counselors that Ben is referring to. And so it was fun to experience and hear this popular band that wasn't even really known in the United States. And we were getting the first listen to it on a cassette tape that was mailed to us from Europe. But, anyways, he is obviously gay now. I'm not sure if he knew his sexuality then. Obviously, didn't know mine then. But there was, was one of the older kids at the after school care. So, in true me fashion, I would help out around after school care, doing all the things. And so he would, quote unquote, pay me in sweet shop treats. So it was the little candy snack store that we had at the after school care. And so I got to pick a snack every once in a while for things that I'd helped out with or whatever. Maybe it wasn't anything. And I don't know. Either way, I got free snacks from Sweet Shop. So there's my story of,
I mean, Lance Bass is a snack, but I want him as a snack, not candy.
well, back then I didn't know. Maybe I did think it was cute. I don't remember, to be honest. I just remember that it was super cool that we got to listen to him on a cassette tape while he was touring and having their first ever concerts.
Also, full transparency, if I had $1 for every time I've heard this story, I would invite you all to visit me in my Hamptons home. So, of course, we had to, share it one more time.
Yeah, please, one more time. I'm sure my sister will love this episode too.
She's about to drive off the road right now.
Probably. So, anyways, we are still continuing on with Pride Month.
Of course.
Happy Pride, June. It's a great time to be who we are and to be able to celebrate that and love who you want to love and live your best life.
Yes, be out and proud.
And if you're not ready to be out and proud, it's okay. Your time will come. Just know that there are plenty of us out there that will love and support you. It's not just your current family or friends. You have a whole world out there that would be totally supportive of you and love you just like you were blood, even though you may not be. We've definitely had those people in our lives and still do, and are super appreciative of all of them in our journey and even our current life. So,
for sure. You have your family and then you have your chosen family.
right. Speaking of family, what was it like growing up when you were younger, and if your family saw like a queer couple out in public? Like, did you notice? Did they notice? How was that transaction, if you will, or interaction? I guess is probably a better word.
So, some of you already know from my coming out story, I was raised very, very religious, and I also was homeschooled. So I definitely was in that bubble. So we really didn't have a lot of money. We really didn't eat out often. If we were out and about, it usually was some type of homeschool convention or church, and 99.999% of the time it was church. So, and we were Baptist, and honey, Baptists don't like the gays
At all.
So, I don't. I guess probably one of my first memories of seeing a gay couple out is we were eating at a Mexican restaurant, because
His family loves a Mexican restaurant.
still to this day I could eat it every day. But that was the only place that we kind of ate out. But I mean, it was cheap, and there were a lot of us, so I get it. But there was a gay couple that came in, and we I just remember my parents telling us we had to get up and leave. And it was very obvious that they all were staring at them. And I mean, I was small, so I don't know. Maybe there was more to the story, but I definitely feel like it was because of them being gay, and that was something that was frowned upon. And yeah, so I mean, that was probably my first memory of that. I honestly think a lot of my family wouldn't have anything to do with gay people if it wasn't for me. And of course, I don't really give them an option. It's either, deal with me or I don't have to talk to you. So yeah, so there's kind of that. I think, yeah.
I don't think really growing up in Mississippi, we had a whole lot of gay interaction or queer interaction with other people because it was Mississippi. I mean, in high school, I was kind of friends or acquaintances with a lot of people in show choir, so I'm sure some of those boys are gay or unfortunately living in the closet because they feel like they can't live their authentic selves. Lance Bass was part of that show choir, if you will.
Shocker.
So,
Every time you
whatever.
hear Lance Bass, take a sip.
That's going to be the end of it. Go on with your next question.
What was your first time like in a gay bar? Who'd you go with? Were you awkward or were you thriving?
So I don't know that it was really my first experience, but it's the first thing that came to mind when we were prepping for this. Is and I don't know the name of it because at this point, y'all know I have a terrible fucking memory. Um, so I don't know the name of it, but it was a lesbian bar in Charlotte, and I went with my friend Aaron. He was one of the first actual gay friends that I had, I guess, because a friend of his I worked with, and she was friends with him outside of work. Um, and so he invited me to this lesbian bar. It was fun. I mean, there weren't a lot of boys there for me to gawk over or anything like that. I do remember they had some really strong blue motorcycles. And I guess that's kind of a lesbian thing because I feel like a lot of the other bars that we've gone to that are more lesbian prominent, they always have a blue motorcycle. Um, so I don't know if that was a thing or not, but I just remember I was feeling very good after the multiple blue motorcycles I had at the lesbian bar. So I don't know that it was necessarily awkward, but maybe a little bit just because it was obviously a lesbian bar. It was filled with women. Not quite my thing.
I love how like you say that about lesbians drink blue motorcycles, and that's like kind of a butch thing, and then us gays are like, oh, the
Give me a Cosmo,
cosmopolitan,
bitch.
yes.
Want a Cosmo or an espresso martini, please and thank you, or vodka soda. That's gay water. So, anyways, I think a few other places in Charlotte that were kind of first for me. There was this place in the Music Factory area. The building's still there, but this club is no longer there. It was called the Garden and Gun Club, which is an interesting name for a gay bar. But it was very fancy, and I appreciated going there. Like it had this floor to ceiling chandelier that was glamorous, honey, right when you walked in. That was another fun place that we went to on a semi regular basis. Hated that it closed. That was a fun time. That was more, I guess, my speed because there were boys there that I could, look at and gawk over. Not that I ever talked because I'm a little bashful.
So that's where that awkward or thriving part comes into play.
Right. There's that. And then there's this other place that was in Charlotte, and Ben will remember the name. I won't. But it was very posh. It was very like Miami. It had like white leather everything, and the bright LED lights that change colors and all the things. And remember, this was back in the early to mid 2000s. So like that was not quite as popular as is now. But the fascinating part was that there were iPads along the wall. There was probably like 8 or 10 iPads, and they all had Grinder downloaded on them because even then, like smartphones were not quite as prevalent as they are now. Um, so I guess that awkwardness of like me not wanting to walk up and talk to somebody, you could log on to Grinder from the iPads on the wall, and I guess see who else is around and message them. For those of you that don't know, Grindr is like a gay hookup app. I'm not sure what you did once you sent that message. Like, do you walk back over and log on and see who wanted to message you while you're standing at the bar instead of just walking over to that person? Um,
Well, back to my conversation earlier about filters. They probably don't know who you are in the bar because your profile pictures were so filtered.
there's that. But it was a fun
Also, sorry, the bar was cathode.
cathode. That's it. Yep.
But also they had like white leather day beds, so like you would just sit with on a bed with random strangers. I don't know, it was weird.
It was kind of strange, but I think it was probably a little too premature for the time. I think now
Yeah,
it probably would, minus the Grinder on the iPads on the wall. I think it would have been a fun spot if it would have been able to stay around, but I think it was a little too trendy at the time. But
I agree.
do you have any other thoughts about?
My first gay bar experience was at the old Scabaret. It's really called the Cabaret, but we would call it the Scabaret
Because
in
it
a
was
little
nasty.
Hickory, North Carolina. Two of my friends actually went through my phone to find out that I was gay, and they were like, "We're going to a gay bar," and that was Susanna and Leah, and we went out, and I wasn't even 21, so I mean, I couldn't drink. I remember getting Red Bulls, because what else do you do at 18?
Well, your friends were not the best friends because my friends would tell me to put chapstick on my hands so when they marked the X's on my hands, I could go to the bathroom and wash them off.
And
Thanks, Miss Molly.
you did teach me that trick when we met.
You're welcome.
Going to Alley Cat in Charlotte.
Oh, damn, Alley Cat. Not a gay bar, but a bar that we frequented as a friend group and had way too much fun there.
It was fun though at a gay bar. I mean, that was my first experience of actually being around like other gay people and seeing that I could be out. I met a really sweet guy named Ben, and he was homeschooled too, and we were raised very, very similar. So it was just, I don't know. I guess it was just nice to know there were others of us, and I wasn't the only one.
That's interesting. That first off, that Hickory has a gay bar.
There's that, and that his name was Ben, and he was homeschooled, and he went to a Baptist church. So it was basically copy and paste.
I mean, I don't know what other churches are in Hickory because it's very southern. So
I mean, you're in the Bible Belt, honey.
I know there's other churches out there, but there's a Southern Baptist church. More frequently, there's a McDonald's on every corner. So there's that.
There might be a church in the McDonald's, actually.
There could be. Praising Jesus over those chicken nuggets and Big Mac.
Yes, honey.
Although a chicken nugget from McDonald's. Don't hate me.
With some hot mustard.
Don't hate me, but sometimes a little guilty pleasure. Anyways, moving on. What are things that straight people never think twice about that we had to figure out either through therapy or over a little kiki at brunch?
I mean, brunch is therapy.
It is therapy.
I would say probably just going into, I mean, just being anywhere and introducing yourself. You know, you kind of have to put into play, like some places we introduce ourselves. Like we were somewhere last week getting our fingerprints done for our port license. And when we handed the guy our IDs, he was like, "Oh, y'all are brothers. That's super cool." And like, I didn't correct him because I don't know you.
You just never know.
And it was just us and him in the shop. So I just kind of smiled and went along. And then like 30 seconds later, he was like, "Or you could be partners." And he was like, "Oh my God, I fucked up. I'm sorry." And we were like, "Actually, we are partners, but it's cool."
We also get told that we're twins all the time, like more times than it's comfortable at this point.
That part. And I always say, well, when you've been with somebody for, almost 17 years, you start looking alike. And I'm like, 17 years ago, we had hair and things look different.
I didn't start losing my hair until Ben came in the picture. So there's that.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
No, I think that's just the thing, though. You kind of have to read the room and kind of figure out. I feel like that's definitely something that we have to take a little more into play when we're visiting home.
Yes.
Because you kind of have to put yourself back in the closet a little bit because they're more rural country areas. And here in Atlanta, I mean, nobody gives a fuck. So
No. I do think we're good about not, if it's not a situation that we're super comfortable about, like we don't add a label to it. Like I don't know that we really refer to each other as friends. It's just like, "Hey, I'm Dustin and this is Ben." And we just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. For sure. And I think the nicest part about now in life, most of the time, it's like, "Oh, I've heard about you because I'm friends with so-and-so or whatever." So we don't have to really explain that.
Yeah. I think for me, it's kind of that public display of affection. There's times where, if you're heterosexual, you don't think twice about holding somebody's hand that you're intimate with or giving a kiss or whatever. And again, like in Atlanta, there's not as much of a stigma because it's very diverse, super welcoming. So not as much there, but that is still something that we have to be cautious about and just make sure that we're in a comfortable environment to hold hands while we're walking down the Beltline, which Beltline has never been an issue because the Beltline's amazing and there's so much fun things and diversity there. But there's just that as being a couple. And then in our journey, adding in the throuple piece. So not only are there 2 boys holding hands, but there could be 3 boys holding hands walking down or showing other signs of affection. And that's just something we have to kind of keep in mind that may not be welcoming to everybody, unfortunately, and that there could be hate crimes or something else that go along with that. Not that we've experienced that here. I think the only time that we've experienced that really has been in New Orleans, and it was interesting because we were like in the like neighborhood of New Orleans, and we weren't even like holding hands or even walking all that close to each other, probably because we had a bucket of hurricanes in our hand. Um,
That part.
but this guy drove around and called us, some derogatory names. And I may have spatted back, and because, I'd had, 42 buckets of hurricanes at this point, and said that he wishes that his girlfriend could suck dick as well as I could. Um,
So there's that.
there's that. Um, so I think that's really been the only thing that has kind of been that we've actually experienced. We're very fortunate that I know not everybody has that same experience, and there's a lot of other hate crimes and things out there. So I hope that we're getting to the point of being in a better place for anybody to feel open and be able to live their authentic selves, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that kind of side note, that makes me think of what my niece texted me this week because she was here for school, and she got to tour the city, and it was like her first trip being away from her parents and all of that. And she texts me every day, telling me all the fun things she was doing in Atlanta, which was great. I loved it. And there were even some things that she would be like, "I'm doing this." And I'm like, "In Atlanta? Like what?" But so when she got back home, I got a text from her, and it just said that we got back home. I had a lot of fun living there. It really seems enjoyable. I loved the diversity of people. We went on a tour of Auburn Avenue, and although I had sweat dripping down my back, it was interesting. The tour guide went around asking people for their names, and when she got to me, she said, "I fit right into Atlanta." And she said, I definitely see why you choose to live there. And I just thought that was super sweet because, I mean, we do enjoy the diversity here. And I responded back and I just told her, it's kind of nice knowing that you just fit in and people aren't judging you and looking at you like an attraction at the zoo. And she said, literally, my hair was basically normal. And I thought a lot of people were so nice and I felt so accepting, which my niece has bright pink hair. But she's always had pink, like a bright color hair for years. I don't think anything about it. But when you live in a small town, that's a big deal. And people well, people make it a big deal and people make snide remarks and things.
But I love that she's living her authentic self regardless of
100%. I didn't
whatever
have
may
that
happen.
confidence at that age.
Yeah,
I just wanted to blend in with everybody.
same.
So I don't know. I just thought that like went right along with just how we love Atlanta and how it's just great. And it's kind of night and day, a little different from, I mean, well, I say night and day a little. That doesn't really make sense. I feel like it's night and day difference from Charlotte on the fact of the judging and people looking at you like you're an attraction at the zoo. Like, I honestly feel like people here just don't really give a fuck. You just live your life and be yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I appreciate that. It's been nice. Not that Charlotte's not. It's coming around, but I guess just Atlanta being such a bigger city, um, that people just kind of do their own thing and welcome other people to do their own thing. Where Charlotte, while it's a melting pot, sometimes it's still didn't feel as comfortable, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's see. How was your experience with Pride events or a parade? And how do you see Pride differently now?
So I think the first time I went to a Pride event or festival, I didn't really know what to expect because I was recently out of the closet and didn't know where to look or if I was allowed to look or take it all in because, there's glitter, there's drag queens, there's older men in crop tops, which I then learned were called daddies. And then, there's this old woman walking down the street in just tiny little strips of leather, and good for her. Um, so there's just a lot to take in with the Pride event, and I think that's the joy of having a Pride event is that you can be authentically you and be supported by other people that just don't give a shit because they want to live their best life too. And I hope that one day that Pride isn't going to be such a big ordeal just because it'll become everyday life. Again, we've made a lot of progress over the years. I will say I'm excited to experience the Atlanta Pride this year because in Charlotte, we honestly, again, back to what we were just talking about, I never really felt super safe in Charlotte because there was a lot of protesters, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of positive police presence. I know some of people that are listening that live in Charlotte may feel differently. This is just my experience and how I felt. I just didn't feel super safe at some of the Pride events. We would go to the parade every once in a while. We had a great friend, Larry, and he had the sweet spot of where to watch the parade. It was Rock Bottom, I think, in Uptown, and they had a
Mhm.
patio and they had high top tables on their patio, at least on the back side of the patio. And he would always make a reservation way far in advance, and we would sit there and watch the parade, and then we would go home because we at least had the quote unquote safety of being in a restaurant, and not actually involved in the commotion that are going on the streets. But I do think that Atlanta, we've heard, is quite different. There's a lot of positive police presence, and there's the what is it, the Pansy Parade or something that like blocks out the protesters. They have these big like
Yeah.
cardboard cutouts of pansies. Um,
It's
that
pansies or daisies. I don't
days
know.
maybe
One
it's
of
daisies,
those.
something like that.
Some flower.
Regardless, they do a great job of like helping block out the protesters as you're in the parade or festivities or whatever. So um, and that there's a lot of positive police presence in Atlanta. So I'm excited to see that this fall. Um, so that's been my experience. You've had a probably similar experience, but there's one particular story that I think you should share that
Yeah. So I used to work at a pediatrics office, and this was many years ago. And
we're
one of the,
not violating HIPAA here. No names will be mentioned.
correct. And one of the moms came in, and like I never advertised the fact that I was gay or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure they knew, but it's not like I, had a pride flag or pictures of us on my desk or anything like that. So one time, one of the moms came in and she was just like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go to the pride event this weekend and take my kids." And she was like super excited about it, and I was like super stoked for her that she was, willing and open to do that. And so I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And she was like, "I'll follow up with you." I was like, "Okay, cool."
Love
And
the fact that she was taking her kids to a pride event and not for any other reason than to just let them experience life in general.
for sure. And so we were able to go that year. We were out of town for something, I don't remember, but
Yeah, it seems like we always were out of town when Pride happened, like the actual Pride
right.
festivities happened in Charlotte.
Well, it also is like the hottest time of the year
True.
in Charlotte when that happens. But anyways, so she came in a couple weeks, a month later, I don't know. And she was like, "I went to Pride." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's awesome." And she was like, "Yeah, it was fine." She was like, "The only thing was there was a singer there, and I didn't really know she'd be there." And I was like, "Oh my God." Like, and I mean, last year I had gone, it was Leanne Rhymes, so she's pretty family friendly. And so I was like, "Who was there?" And she was like, "I don't know if you've heard of her, but she was like, it's Cupcake or Cupcake." And she's like, she wasn't very child friendly.
She is not family friendly at all.
And I was like, "Oh my God." Like, I was basically clutching my pearls because, I mean, granted, I do have her on some of my playlists, but that is not music that I would blare around children for sure.
Sometimes it makes me clench my pearls.
Correct. So I would say if you're listening to this and you're thinking about taking your kids, I think I would just check to see what is going on as far as the music and things. And I think usually, I mean, all the Pride events I've been to, usually during the day, it's pretty family friendly. And then the later it gets into the night is when they bring out more of the things that aren't so family friendly.
Yeah, so just check the event calendar and see who's performing or what activities are going on just to make sure that it is family friendly. I do think that it's an awesome experience for anybody to go to, and show support and shows especially the younger generations that it's okay to be who you are regardless of what that is. And that's definitely a place that you can experience different walks of life, and not just gay. Like you can see all different types of things at a pride event because it's just a safe space, or is intended to be a safe space for anybody to just be their authentic self. So definitely consider checking out a pride event in your area.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to teach kids that this is normal. This isn't, we're not zoo attraction type of situation for sure. All right, so next question. Let's get on and have a little rant about what's on your Pride Month annoyance list.
Just a little bit of a rant because we want pride to be a super positive experience, and it is. But there's some things that are a little annoying. For me, it would be the rainbow washing, which I just recently learned that that was a term. But that's where like companies slap a rainbow on their logo or change it to the rainbow colors, but that's the only support that they give. While it's appreciated, I think it's just something and an opportunity for you to actually show more of support of other walks of life, and not just change your logo or your company slogan or whatever it is for 30 days and be like, oh, yeah, we support the gays. And then come July 1st, everything's back to normal. Like, if you're willing to change your logo and all of that for 1 month, like, show a little more support throughout the year because that's what we need and what this world needs to make sure that everybody is welcoming and understanding and love who you are, regardless of what that is.
For sure. I think that mine would be straight people asking, "Who's the woman in the relationship?"
Bitch, we're both men.
It doesn't work that way, Linda. Like, calm down. And like the first experience that happened to me many, many years ago, I was in the lunchroom with somebody that I worked with, and she just kept asking, "Who's the woman? Who's the woman?" And I just kind of, I mean, I really didn't think twice about it at first. I just kind of was like, "Oh, it doesn't work that way," blah blah. Because I always trying to educate people on things that you're unaware of, and if you're willing to learn, I have no problem trying to educate you. However, when it went on and on and on, finally I was like, "All right, I'm gonna leave," because I don't know. I was just like, I have to run an errand, and all that to say, it turned into a big HR situation. Um,
Not from you.
not for me. I was like, I'm not doing this. It was a new job, and I was like, I'm not trying to put anything on me. Other people I worked with went and were like, this was uncomfortable. I know how to be uncomfortable for him. So like, I appreciated that they were willing to stand up for me, because I just didn't want to make it a thing. Um, I mean, still to this day, sometimes people will still ask that, and it's usually people who are who don't live in the city, who don't, who kind of live in their bubble, I'll say. And once again, if you're willing to be educated on it, I have no problem. But if you're just harping on the fact that you think there should be a woman in the relationship, like, open up your mind and think about that that's not the case.
No, I think that it's one thing to not be educated and want to learn, but frame it that way. Be like, hey, I don't know how to ask this, but I'm curious. I want to learn. And preface it with, I don't know how to say this or I don't know how to ask it, because that comes off a lot better and it makes the environment more educational for us to be like, okay, this is a better way for you to ask that. To just be like, hey, what's the dynamic in your relationship? Because I'm not familiar with two men being in a relationship. Like, if you phrase it a different way or even just openly say, hey, I don't know what this means. Can you tell me about it? And that's even like pronouns these days. Like, it's okay to be like, I don't know how to ask this, but do you go by different pronouns or what are your pronouns or something like that? Like, just preface it with, because it comes off a lot better and easier, and it shows us that you're coming from a place of wanting to understand versus than just the traditional norms of who's the woman in the relationship. Well, there's not one. We're gay. We like penises. Like, I don't know
That
what to
part.
tell you. Like, there's no woman. No offense to women. We love you too. But it's just not our thing. So there's not a woman in our relationship. We're two men.
Exactly.
I think another thing is just people saying, like, I don't care if you're gay, just don't shove it in my face. Well, I'm not shoving it in your face. I'm just being who I am. Um, so I don't really know how to react to that. I feel like that comes from people that are probably a little too closed minded, and that's something that they need to work out. We live in 2025. There's plenty of resources. There's the internet on our phones that you can look up things and do your own research and form your own opinion. And here's the thing: if you don't want to be in a gay relationship, you don't have to be. You love who you want to love. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not shoving anything in your face. I'm just living my best life with the person that I love or persons that I love, if it comes to that. Um, so it's not anything being shoved in your face. You're not going to quote unquote catch the gay because we're around and we may hold hands or give each other a hug or a kiss, whatever that looks like. Like, it, I'm not shoving it in your face any more than you're shoving your lifestyle in our face of just living your quote unquote normal life. So
Yeah, I think another one that I just thought about is how people assume because we're gay, we know everybody that's gay. Like,
yes,
like they'll be like, "Oh, you know her? She's gay," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I didn't see her in the newsletter this month."
right. We
What?
don't get a newsletter that updates us on all the new gay people that have come out of the closet. Like that's not a thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a big thing for many of years. People just assume, or they're like, "Oh, you know him? You know, you're gay and he's gay." Yeah, totally, Linda. Got it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that they're we don't necessarily know them, but if you want to introduce us, like, would love to meet them.
Yeah,
But
let's go to brunch together.
right,
But
absolutely. But I don't automatically know them just because they're gay and we're gay. Like that, we don't have a encyclopedia index of, oh, let me look them up. Oh, I missed the newsletter on May, and I didn't catch that they're now part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Like, I just it's not a thing, y'all.
right,
It's really not a thing.
that part.
What are some stereotypes that are low key kind of true?
If there's a brunch, the gays will be there.
If you haven't noticed, we've mentioned brunch many times, and we do love a brunch, bitch.
And we just got home from brunch not that long ago.
We did.
But I mean, that's kind of like all the time. I'm like, oh, I should get me on the farmer's market, or I should get up and do this, or get up and blah blah blah. I never do.
Brunch sounds better.
But if there's like, I'll set an alarm, but then I hit snooze or something comes up or whatever. But if there's a brunch, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be there on time. All the things.
Because we need to get up and maybe have a mimosa before we go to brunch because it's brunch.
You have to pre-plan brunch, and then you get to brunch, and then like today there were drinks post brunch.
Right.
That's
Because
just
we
how it
needed
works.
an espresso martini.
Need to pick me up.
And now we're sipping on Sauv Blanc with jalapenos.
You know,
It's fine.
Sunday fun day.
Everything's fine. So one thing that I think is that lesbians move so fast and they move in together with each other super quickly. We actually talked about this at brunch today.
With our lesbian friends.
With our lesbian friends. So shout out to Laura and Sherry. But I don't know that it's just lesbians because, as you guys know, if you've listened this far, like Ben and I moved in together knowing each other for maybe a month, if that. And then there's been other experiences where somebody's lived with us super quickly, and not that it was necessarily planned, but that's just how things worked out. And so I don't know that it's just lesbians. I think maybe it's gays in general that just, we might be on a fast track to everything in life.
Yeah, people blame it on the lesbians. I'm like, oh, they packed their Subaru quick. But I mean, also, I drove a Subaru when we met, and it was packed pretty quick.
It was.
I loved that car.
I hated that car, but it did serve its purpose. It lets you move that terrible dresser down to Charlotte. It was like the terrible color green. It was terrible.
That's from Big Lots.
But it worked.
Times were tough back then.
Subaru served its purpose.
I went from Big Lots to West Elm. I've improved.
This is true. Thank God.
I think another one would be the gays do love an iced coffee. I do.
The gays do love an iced coffee.
100%. That's like gay water until it's time for
a vodka tonic or vodka soda.
Correct.
With a lime.
Correct.
Or a Cosmo, bitch.
Or that, and it has to be the perfect shade of pink. We don't like a dark Cosmo.
Just
we're
like
gonna judge you on your Cosmo.
Mimosas should not be orange. Like we need just enough orange in there for it to be just the slightest little color in it.
Yeah, just a wave of an orange over it.
A little, even if you get a little spritzer bottle and just spritz the top of it, perfectly fine. It's even better. But I don't want it to be just champagne because it's brunch. Like we're supposed to be having like breakfasty type food. So I can't just drink champagne at 10 o'clock in the morning. So just sprinkle a fruit in because we're not fruity enough at brunch with my 2-inch inseam shorts at brunch.
Your adult diapers.
Shut up. One last thing is that Drag Race is every gay man's personality. And we're not huge Drag Race fans. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I'm not talking about like the cars and the drag strip and all of that.
Not the Mississippi kind of drag race.
Bitch, we had more dirt tracks than we did drag strips.
Well, still.
But anyways, it's a drag queen competition show with the queen herself, who's like the queen drag queen, Miss RuPaul. We used to watch it a lot more back in the day, and I think it was a little more entertaining because they had to actually like make their outfits and come up with that. Where now I feel like they are have a little idea of what the competition is going to be, so they pre-pack their outfits that they've bought or had somebody else make. Like back in the day, they used to go to the fabric store and pick out the fabric and come back to the sewing machines and sew their clothes together
Or it would be like pool noodles or like
or
an old
bubble wrap.
sofa or something. Like they worked hard for it then.
So, not that we don't enjoy RuPaul's Drag Race, but it's not our personality.
No, not at all. I mean, when I first met Dustin, he had never even seen somebody in drag. In our first drag show, he was like sweating bullets, was uncomfortable, like he wanted to like slither into the floor. It was pretty funny.
And even still to this day, I won't say it freaks me out, but I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just don't know. Like it's just kind of bizarre to me. Not in a bad way. It's just I really just don't know. Sometimes it makes me uncomfortable. I love them from a distance, love them as people. I guess it's more of like the interaction because drag queens love to interact with the audience, and I'm not one of those people. Like I just want to observe. I'm there to enjoy, sip my mimosa. I don't want to be part of the show, and drag queens love to have the audience participate. So I think maybe that's more of the uncomfort is the anxiety of are they going to pull me out of the audience and I'm going to have to make a fool of myself in front of all of these people. But love drag queens. They're amazing. Their makeup 99% of the time is flawless. Back to one of the bars that we were talking about earlier is I remember my friend that I lived with in Charlotte. We went to a bar and there was a drag queen walking around that he had no idea that she was a drag queen. He was like, "Oh my God, she's beautiful. She's hot." Like he was staring at her ass, staring at her boobs, all the things. And I was like, "You know that's a man, right?" He was like, "No, it's not. She's beautiful." I was like, "It's called a drag queen, baby. Like she's a man outside of her drag persona." So
bless.
Love him. All right, so I think next let's move into our bite of the week. So this week we made this street corn salad. We added shrimp to it. I think when I first saw like this recipe or whatever, it had chicken, but we've eaten a lot of chicken this week and I wanted some shrimp. So I subbed out the shrimp. So if you want to make this, sub whatever protein you want or don't have a protein if you don't want to, because it was super tasty. So we sauteed the shrimp and then we did this mix with some tomatoes, cilantro, shallots, garlic, bell pepper, jalapenos, roasted corn. I cheated and used the frozen roasted corn, obviously from Trader Joe's, and then mixed in a little avocado with it, and then just marinated that in some olive oil and fresh lime juice. And then we made this high protein chipotle dressing to go on top of it. It was very, very good. Highly recommend. I even think afterwards, like the toppings, like the fresh veggies and stuff, mixed with the cilantro or not cilantro, the chipotle dressing. I think it would also be like a good dip for veggies or chips or crackers or something. It was a nice, like refreshing, fresh summer salad. Very
really
tasty.
good. I really enjoyed it. I think that I'm actually have two.
Of course you do.
Sorry. Well, one's a bite of the week, one's a sip of the week.
Oh, okay.
Bite of the week would be last weekend. We went to Hugo's Oyster Bar, I believe it was, in
Roswell.
And everything there was delicious, but they had, I love an oyster, and their char grilled oysters had cream spinach and jalapeno and bacon. It was delicious. Really, really enjoyed that. I think I also have a sip of the week, and that would be the espresso martini I had today for post drinks. Where were we?
Cafe Intermezzo.
In Dunwoody. We had been to the Midtown location. Never even knew there's one in Dunwoody, so that's super close and love that. But it's an espresso martini is hard to find that's perfection, just like a Cosmo. And these were perfection.
They were so good. Not quite as good as the James Room that we found on the Beltline.
True.
But They were very, very tasty.
But this is good for like super close and parking and
Yes.
all the things.
Yeah,
Where
'cause
the James room takes some more strategic planning.
yes, and at least $25 in parking, if not more. We're like parking in Dunwoody was free. I mean, the
That
shopping
part.
center looked a little abandoned, and I mean, it was still kept up very well, but there wasn't a lot there. So I hope more stuff will come into that shopping center.
Yeah, and the place we had brunch was there, which is great.
It was good.
Definitely will go there again.
So I'm gonna jump back real quick to going to brunch last weekend at Hugo's Oyster Bar of a Not Today. Is I hate when they force you to valet park. Like it's not necessary. I don't want to pay you to park our car. Also, we drive a school bus, and I don't need a 16-year-old trying to park our school bus. So we drove around and found another parking lot to park in, and then walked a block and a half down to the restaurant because you're not parking my car, and I'm not paying an extra fee for you to valet. Some of y'all may love valet. I'm not a fan. I don't, especially if it's forced. Dude, don't force me to valet because I'm not doing it. I will turn around and leave if I can't find somewhere else to park.
We don't actually drive a school bus. It's just about the size of one. It's just a really big SUV for those of you who don't know. I don't want you to think that we're just driving around a big yellow bus.
Tooting
Okay?
around town and with their stop sign hanging out.
I don't hate that. I don't hate a valet if parking's far. Like if I'm at a nice like South Park mall, trust and believe I have no problem paying for valet because I don't want to park there and walk all that way. However, that was when I had my own separate car, so Dustin wasn't so particular.
Yeah,
about
he
it
could do whatever he
then.
wanted to with the Lincoln. That was not mine.
Now that we work from home, we share a car because we never drive anywhere. So the story's a little different. But once again, I don't mind a valet if parking is not next to the building. This place, literally, they would have parked our car right next to the front door. And I just feel like
Yes.
that's just kind of insane. That's just another way just to grab money.
And Ben still has his own valet because I still drop his ass off at the door and then we'll go park in Egypt. And
You
walk
didn't
back.
last week. I had to walk a mile.
Well, because there was nowhere for me to pull off on. You're fine.
Thanks.
We needed some steps. We were drinking bottomless mimosas.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. If we're drinking, then I'm like, well, I do need to walk a little more.
So, anyways, I think that's all for our bite of the week.
I think so.
So before we wrap up, I can't forget, like I did last week, our best friend who has really become a sister to us. She knows way too much about our life. But she always gives us all the love and support, regardless of what crazy shit we're spilling the tea on, or some drama that's going on into our life. So this episode goes out in memory of her sweet little fur baby, Maggie May. She was in renal failure over the last couple of weeks, and our friend lost her sweet baby girl a week or so after she was diagnosed with renal failure. She's basically Nola's twin. So there's always been that running joke between us that our fur babies were sisters just like we are. And so we love you, Maggie May. We know that your family does, and they miss you terribly. We hope you're having the best time in doggy heaven, and say hey to our fur babies that are up there as well.
And one more closing note is just be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Love yourself. Everybody's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this world. And just take a break and be true to yourself and just do all the things.
And love those around you too, because you never know that they, even just a kind word or a kind smile, it might change their day or make an impression or whatever it is. Like it just be kind, be a nice human. That's all we ask, and love everybody around you.
For sure. You never know what anybody else is going through. And if you can make their day better, please try. All right. So don't forget to send us your requests. Send us your crazy stories you want to hear us react to. I'd love that. If you have a burning question, please give it to us. If there's a topic you want us to dive into, nothing's off limits. Send it all. Slide into our DMs or email us at Sip.HappensPodcast@outlook.com. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, follow, turn on your notifications, review, share. Just do all the things.
All the things. Thanks for stopping by. Love you guys. Happy Pride.
Bye, y'all.